I want to send it now to a press conference with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
FPL substation on Fort Myers Beach right there at Ground Zero was fine. They could have had people hooked up to power days later. Just the people's homes couldn't accept it because of the storm surge. So all that is going on, and we're happy to have pre-staged those resources because I think it's really important that we'll be able to do. We're also assessing the need for things like points of distribution. We typically will set up these pods with water, food, tarps, things of that nature. I think we will be doing some pods. A lot of this is based on what the counties ask us for. But I also think you're probably going to see a lot of the stores and gas stations reopen very quickly. At least that's our hope. We're also looking at the damage that was done to the ports in Florida. East Coast, I don't think there was very much, if any. Port of Tampa seems like it's okay. Manatee, that remains to be seen. But bottom line is we got to keep bringing fuel into this state. I know there's a lot on the dockside still that can be brought out. We've got 1.5 million gallons of diesel on hand that we can use for the state and to help replenish. And I think we've got about 1.1 million gallons of regular gasoline just in our arsenal. And then we've also deputized the Florida Highway Patrol to escort the fuel tankers with sirens to be able to get to all the gas stations to get filled. I think you're probably going to be okay on the east coast of Florida. Some of the places in the Tampa Bay area, when there was evacuation, everyone was going to get gas, and some people were filling up additional tanks in addition to what was in their car with the gallon containers or whatever they have, which is fine, but just the demand went through the roof. And so these guys ran out. We had enough fuel in the state. It's just they didn't have the delivery schedule to be able to replenish it immediately, so you had some that went out. So we've been doing this. I think we've done probably about 130 escorts with Florida Highway Patrol bringing this in. We'll continue to do that. So my hope is that there's minimal interruption with fuel on the backside of this storm. We've had a lot of people have been working very hard. I think, as most of you know, we've been doing this now for 2.5 weeks from the time we declared the state of emergency before Hurricane Helene, and then in the aftermath of Helene, and then, we work on Helene for a week in terms of the response and the recovery, and then we got to do another state of emergency for Hurricane Milton, and it's just the way you go. So people have been working 24/7, particularly on the west coast of Florida. We got a lot of first responders that have been working really hard. Kevin and his team, all of our state agencies get mobilized when we have these types of events, and they've been working nonstop. So my hat's off to everybody that's worked hard. Unfortunately, we have the fatalities from this tornado here. We don't have confirmed reports of other fatalities throughout the rest of the state, but we may as the day goes on. My sense is that a lot of the people did leave who were in the evacuation zones. I know we had over 80,000 people staying in shelters. You had massive heavy traffic on the interstates over the last several days leading up to the storm because I think people were deciding, to just get out of Dodge. We also can say that the storm did not produce the worst case scenario in terms of storm surge. If you remember, about 24 hours ago, maybe 36 hours ago, the fear was a Category 4, strong 4, going into Tampa Bay, producing about 15 feet of storm surge. That's an area with Pinellas County Peninsula and then the surrounding areas in Hillsborough County that is very low-lying, very susceptible to storm surge. That did not end up happening. The storm did weaken before it hit land, and then it did bear further to the east and south of Tampa Bay. So I think a lot of what they had was the wind sucked water out of Tampa Bay. You did have storm surge in Sarasota, Venice, Charlotte Harbor, and all the way down the west coast of Florida, and some significant storm surge, but not to the worst case scenario of what we were looking at. I mean, for example, Helene, we had storm surge in Taylor County up in North Florida that was probably about 20 feet in places like Deacle Beach and Horseshoe Beach. And that is the real deal. I mean, we have examples in American history where you've actually had a lot more than that, 24, 25 feet, Mississippi, Texas, Camille, some of those. But to have 18 to 20, that's a big deal. So doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot of damage. Doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot we're going to have to contend with. But just in terms of what we were prepped for, I think that we probably have an abundance of resources. My sense is we'll probably be able to release a lot of the search and rescue resources that we've had on hand very soon, and then just get back to getting everybody back online with power, making sure the gasoline's flowing and everything. So all in all, everyone's done a good job up to this point. We got a lot more work to do, and I'll let Kevin come in and say a few things.
Thank you, Governor. I think in this situation here, where we're at, the strength of what happened here is organically our state mutual aid system. The very first group that was on hand here was a Palm Beach County Fire Rescue Search and Rescue Team. That's not even officially a part of our state 8-team search and rescue team system. Maybe we want to change that in the future and put them on that. But that Type 3 team, which is self-funded 100% by Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, was the first ones in to this situation, followed up by Miami-Dade Task Force 1, and then Ohio and Virginia Task Force. And again, I think that's just a strength of not just the state emergency response team and the state emergency response plan, but also outside states helping states. Some people were a little critical of the governor sending state assets up to North Carolina, but right here when we needed them, of course we got all those guys back, but immediately Virginia, Ohio, California, and other states from around the country had their assets right here. So, this is one of those examples. The sheriff was telling us about this when we were walking up. He was very grateful for those assets being in here so quickly. But that's the strength of the state emergency response team, the state emergency response plan, and then the greater emergency management assistance compact that we pull from. So we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here. This is the first day of many, many to come, probably over the next couple of years. Again, it's going to take us a long time to get all the recovery done, but we're not going to let bureaucracy get in the way. We're going to get this done as quickly as we possibly can. So thank you, Governor, for your leadership.
Do you want to maybe just give an update on what we think we're going to get from FEMA for debris removal?
Sure. Yeah. So we're going to start getting back in the debris removal business. We're going to supplement where we need to supplement, but we had a really good conversation with Administrator Criswell, who is here in Florida and is actually on her way somewhere in this general direction. But she is working with us on how we could ensure that debris gets picked up quickly. How do we, and the right word is not incentivize it, but if you're in the private sector, it would be how do we incentivize haulers to get stuff picked up faster, bringing in people from around the country to get that done. We're also looking at potentially, again, a mutual aid effort where we may bring in some city and county assets that have the claw trucks and the loader trucks from around the state of Florida and maybe even outside the state of Florida to help us get that stuff picked up. So again, she's very, very helpful on getting those things done, making sure that we got everything that we need. We will be submitting, hopefully by this afternoon, now that we got post-landfall and we got some data, we'll be submitting through the governor's signature a major disaster expedited request so that we could get those federal funds turned on and start looking for reimbursement. But again, we're not going to wait on the feds for reimbursement. We're going to do what we need to do the right thing, get people in Floridians back on their feet. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so this whole debris, you had like in Pinellas, they didn't want to do the debris as fast because they weren't sure about the paperwork and about FEMA reimburse. And it's like, you got to get the debris off. And these storms, because of the way it's done, really incentivizes it to go a lot longer with the debris. And sometimes the debris in these major storms is around for a year. And how ridiculous is that? So what Kevin's doing, and I think the administration wants to work with us, is to let's align these incentives so we can get the job better. You'd think the private sector would do it so much better than government. At least that's what I would think. And yet on this debris after Helene, when we saw how much was there and we knew another storm was coming, we got all our Department of Transportation assets from Florida. We were bringing trucks in from all over the state that are doing their normal duties, and we surged them over to the barrier islands off the Gulf Coast of Florida, and we did like 3,000 truckloads of debris, reduced the debris by 50% in 72 hours. So, and we did round the clock. We had 24/7 shifts going, but that's a sense of urgency. So I just think that that may be an extreme, like doing 24/7, but I mean, you should be able to get the debris done earlier than that. So I'm hoping that they can do this in a way that's going to make sense, so that the local governments can bring their contractors in and clean up the debris. We'll see what the debris was left on this storm. I don't think we have a real good sense about how much compared to the other. I mean, I think the storm surge overall was not as high as the others, but I also think it probably hit the winds hit more of the Florida Peninsula on this. So I think in terms of tree damage, I think you're going to see a lot of that. And then, of course, we had more tornadoes for Milton than we did for Helene. So we'll see how all that shakes out. But I really think getting a better posture on how they do the debris reimbursements would make a lot of sense, and I think it would move this process along a lot further. And it's also just a morale thing. You get hit with a storm, seeing debris is just a constant reminder that you got hit. When things get picked up, things look nice, people feel a lot better about it. So we got to get that. We got to make sure they get that job done. Okay, do we have any questions?
Yeah, Governor, have you spoken with the White House? Anyone there about the response here?
Yes, I spoke with the president this morning, and Kevin was on the phone with me. We were on, the administrator of FEMA was in the office with us in Tallahassee at the Emergency Operations Center, and he said he wants to be helpful. And so if we have requests, he said send them his way, and he wants to help us get the job done. So I appreciate being able to collaborate across the federal, state, and local governments and work together to put the people first. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I think it's, so, you do have these tornadoes, the warnings, how many actually touch down is probably a different one. But I would say what I've seen so far is that St. Lucie had the most tornado damage of anyone I've seen. Is that what your reports?
Yeah, and we know that we had over 120 tornado warnings statewide. It's probably going to be higher than that. All of those tornado confirmations come from your local weather forecasting office. So those individuals that come around and confirm all of those tornadoes. We have 4 meteorologists that said that we had probably in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 radar indicated tornadoes. All that means that they see a debris signature in the circulation. But again, the weather forecasting offices of the National Weather Service will actually verify those tornadoes.
Excuse me?
Sorry, was that in St. Lucie County alone in 2025?
No.
Statewide.
Statewide.
Yep.
Sheriff Pearson, could you please clarify? I know we've got 4 deaths in the Spanish Lakes area. Where was the 5th death in St. Lucie County?
In the same area. As our rescue team is still out there, this is a rescue mission. We're sifting through the debris. They just recently, right before this conference, located another victim, unfortunately. But again, we're going to continue through this. We're so grateful that the governor sent down, this was during the storm, he sent down the National Guard. So while we're all hunkering down, trying to stay safe, these men and women are driving through the storm to get here, and they worked throughout the night, and their actions 100% saved lives, saved our lives.
Governor, I know before the storm there was a great concern about the debris from Helene. How much worse did this storm make with the debris that was already accumulated?
I think that'll be assessed today. I can tell you, whatever happened, had we not done what we did with that 72-hour project to take every truck in Florida and help these counties and these cities, some of these contractors were doing the debris and then they left and went to North Carolina because they could make more money there. And then others were working like banker's hours. And I'm just thinking to myself, how the hell is that something that's acceptable? And so we came in and we said, not only are we going to send all these assets, it's going to be 24/7. So the first night we go there, and the county, I think it was Pinellas, they didn't have the landfill open 24/7. So our guys cut the locks, and we started doing. And you had all these, not just the state trucks, you had private citizens with their Ford F-250 pickup trucks that were loading debris, massive amounts in. So he said we got to keep it going. Then the next night, there were 2 entrances, and they closed one of the entrances, and there were 300 cars in line. So we somehow rigged that and opened that up. So this is just like, where's the sense of urgency? So it may be that this debris ended up not causing much more damage. But if it did cause more damage, I could tell you, had we not come in and did what we did, you would have had a lot more. And the thing is like I mean, I tell Kevin, I'm like, look, we want to be helpful, and we will be helpful, but you know, the state's job is not to pick up the debris. Like, that's the local community's responsibility. And so this was an extraordinary circumstance where we came in and did it. And I think part of the reason, and I think there was enough debris there that I don't think you could have gotten it all in 2 weeks, realistically. But, I mean, there clearly was not a sense of urgency after the first storm hit. And yes, we knew there may be another one. Then they said, well, just a rainstorm, maybe not, this and that. But then by last weekend, by like last Friday, we were looking at it and we're like, you know what, this is real. We got to be serious about it. And then we did the executive order on Saturday. So, you know, but I definitely think we help things by doing that. And as of now, I'm not sure about structural damage on any of the roads there. I'm going to go over to Siesta Key after this in Sarasota. That was kind of ground zero of where the surge came in. You know, we just repaired one of the roads from Longboat Key up to Anna Maria. Do you know how that's fared? Have we gotten any reports?
I have not, sir.
So we did emergency repairs on that, got it back open. We'll see. We may have to do some more repairs on that. I think that there may have been some small bridges throughout the state that have some damage. The big bridges we have in the Tampa Bay area, Gandy, Howard Franklin, I know Sunshine Skyway is going to be open if it's not already. The other two are open. Courtney Campbell will be open as soon as they move the debris and finish the debris removal. So all being told, you're going to have all those major bridges back open if they're not already.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis there giving an update on the rescue and recovery efforts going on across his state right now. What do we know? 3 million people still without power across the state of Florida. 4 people confirmed dead at this point, though that number is expected to rise.